Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard spent the entire holiday weekend campaigning in New Hampshire. The 2020 Democratic candidate attended several 4th of July parades around the state and met with voters. She's capitalizing on a bump in recognition following the Miami debates. Earlier, I spoke with Congresswoman Gabbard about the new attention, her opponents, and current U.S. relations with Iran. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard joins me now from Manchester, New Hampshire. Welcome, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to start with the current tensions with Iran, because that's something you've been outspoken about. Iran did confirm it's enriching uranium at levels higher than what the 2015 nuclear deal had set. If you were president, what would your response be?
Well, first of all, no one should be surprised that we're in the position that we're in, specifically because President Trump is the one who tore up the Iran nuclear agreement. If I were president right now, I would make sure that we re-enter that agreement and that we bring Iran back into compliance, given the news that we're hearing today. I think the indications that we've heard from Iran throughout this process since Trump tore up that nuclear agreement is that Iran has been trying to convince the other European signers to that agreement to get back into it, to find ways to maintain it. Instead, everything Trump has done has brought us to this point now where now Iran is no longer in compliance. Trump is continuing to escalate these crippling sanctions and continuing to deploy more U.S. troops to the region, pushing us, the United States, the American people, our troops, closer and closer to the brink of war with Iran. That would be far more costly and far more devastating than anything that we saw in the Iraq War, the war that I served in, the war that took over 4,000 lives of our men and women in uniform. This is a dangerous situation that cannot be allowed to continue. Trump's got to swallow his pride and get back into the Iran nuclear agreement and prevent this war.
But would you agree that Iran has had a hand in escalating tensions?
I think these tensions that have brought us to this place that we are in today have been instigated and continuously escalated by Donald Trump. Sure, there are other issues that we need to work out with Iran, but the focus here is on this Iran nuclear agreement that up until Trump tore up that agreement, Iran had been proven to be in compliance with. So we've got to look at how President Trump has failed every step of the way, failed the American people, putting us in this place where we're on the brink of war and making us less safe. That's really what's at stake here and why he's got to exercise the right kind of leadership. Think of the American people first instead of himself and get us back into this nuclear agreement and walk us away from the brink of war.
Okay, back to the deal with Iran. All right, I want to ask you about your campaign Twitter account, which today commented on the Biden-Harris fallout after their exchange on busing during the most recent debates. Now, you said that Harris leveled a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is racist. Can you tell us exactly what your issue is with how the senator is handling this?
Well, exactly what I said there. Levying this accusation that Joe Biden is racist when he's clearly not, as a way to try to smear him. And as you point to the article that I linked to in my tweet, really what she's saying is her position is the same one that she was criticizing Joe Biden for. So this is just a political ploy, and I think a very underhanded one, just to try to get herself attention, to move herself up in the polls. I think that we need to be above that, all of us.
And Biden has also said that he would rather talk about the future instead of talking about the past. And some perhaps might wonder if the party is focusing a little too much on the issue of race at the expense of some other issues. Would you share that concern?
No, I think there are still racial injustices and inequalities that exist in this country that we need to address. I think it's important for us to look forward towards the future to see how we can come together as a country, how we can break down these injustices and inequalities and come together and work towards a brighter future. Every single candidate will need to stand up and speak out, defend their own record. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is how we can bring about this vision to ensure that we truly do have equality and justice and opportunity for every single American.
And after your first debate performance, BuzzFeed News wrote an article called "Tulsi Gabbard is having a MAGA moment after her debate performance." It says that you, quote, appeared to cement your status as the very online right's favorite Democratic candidate. So as a candidate running for the Democratic nomination, do you welcome that support?
Well, once again, I think BuzzFeed is using smear tactics to detract away from the focus of my message and the fact that I was the most Googled candidate after that debate, and why we have progressives, Democrats, independents, libertarians, and Republicans who are coming together to support my candidacy because of the leadership that I bring, the experience that I bring, serving as a soldier over 16 years, deploying twice to the Middle East, serving in Congress on the Foreign Affairs, Armed Services, and Homeland Security committees, agreeing on the need for us as a country to end these wasteful regime change wars that have been so costly to every one of us in this country, work to end the new Cold War and nuclear arms race. They're confident in the leadership and experience that I bring on national security to that job of commander-in-chief. Be able to do that job on day one to get us out of these messes and focus on instead investing our resources, our taxpayer dollars, into serving the needs of the American people. This is a message that's actually bringing people together, uniting people in this country so that we can move forward. And it's also the reason why I'm the only candidate that can actually beat Donald Trump in November of 2020.
And indeed, as you mentioned, you did stand out during the debate in Miami. Once again, you were the most Googled candidate after that debate. Has that, apparent curiosity about you for those voters who perhaps didn't know about your record before the debate, has that translated into any boost in fundraising?
We were getting more support, but look, we are an underdog campaign, and so we're working really hard. You know, I've spent the last several days here in New Hampshire, and it's been really nice to be able to be out here through the 4th of July weekend and marching in parades and out in different communities, being able to connect with voters here in this state and voters across the country, sharing this most important message that really is at the core of our being able to address all of these domestic issues, dealing with this cost of war and the money that's been wasted so that we can have the resources to ensure health care for all, so we can build a strong green jobs economy, so we can invest in infrastructure and education. People get why this is so important, and I'm grateful for the support that we're earning.
And speaking of New Hampshire, since you are there right now, you have been spending a lot of time in that state. Is that a strategy that you see paying off?
Well, I appreciate the support that we're growing and continuing to see here. We're also focusing on other states. These are the states that are voting first in the nation, as you well know. But we're extending our outreach to voters all across this country and encouraging them to join our movement, to visit my website at tulsi2020.com and to see how we can come together and work together towards a future and ushering in a green century with peace and prosperity for everyone.
Absolutely. Now, quickly before we lose you, I want to ask you about the Women's World Cup victory and their push to get equal pay. The president said he'd like to see that, but added that he would want to look at attendance numbers. If you were president, what would your position be on that?
I'm so proud of these amazing women and how they have performed courageously, meeting the mark, showing how it's been done every single day. And the fact that they're having to fight in a class action lawsuit and that we are all having to say, hey, equal pay for equal work, I think is really unfortunate. Obviously, they should be getting paid in the same way that we've seen their counterparts on the male teams getting paid. They are putting in the hard work, getting it done. They should be rewarded and paid accordingly. And
also, if you were president in your first 100 days, what's the most important issue you would want to push through?
Yeah, look, it's what we're talking about. The most important thing that as president and commander-in-chief I will do is to end these wasteful regime change wars, to bring our troops home from countries like Afghanistan and Syria and Iraq, end this wasteful spending, work to end this new Cold War and arms race so that we can truly invest our hard-earned taxpayer dollars right here in our communities, serving the very real needs that people have, putting those dollars back in our schools, back in our health clinics, back into investing in our future and rebuilding our communities.
All right, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.